Hello, this is Andrew with Bike, and this is a set of Bontrager NCS Fenders in the 38 to 45 millimeter size. When I made the video about the Fender dilemma for the GR300 Lynskey gravel frame set, Big Lampar, I think, suggested that I have a look at these guys. And now I was aware that they existed, but I had totally misread what they were indicating with this 38 to 45 millimeter specification. That is the tire size, not the size of the fender. And so these should be exactly what I'm looking for when it comes to putting a fender on here that can hopefully fit up to a 45C tire. Let's get started. First off, we're going to open up this and just measure them real quick to make sure that they are indeed what I expect them to be. So along with the fenders, which have blender integration, which is kind of neat, that lets you put a taillight straight up on the fender. Or actually, I guess you could put anything on there, maybe a GoPro or whatever. You get a bracket for the rear fender, and some long mounting bolts, some washers, some grommets, and actually a lot of hardware here. I suspect that we probably won't need all of this hardware, but they probably just throw it in here for the wide array of different bikes that one could potentially want to fit these fenders. So let's put that down, and we'll just quickly measure external width. The external width here is 55 or 54.2. The internal is, probably can't see that, but it's 50.8. So that should fit a 45C tire just fine. And with this long sleeve at the back on both fenders, it should be great for even if you're going to ride in a pace line. So let's get the wheels off the bike and then we'll get the fenders on real quick. So the back went on really easy. I really like that these rotate and that this bit moves back and forth just with some simple bolts, and you don't have to make a permanent modification to the fender, to the supports, in order to make it work between different bikes. So that is fantastic. The only complication here was around this bracing bracket here for the between the seat stays, because I didn't slide it on before I mounted the bottom bolt, and I wasn't able to make it go around and clamp. So I just had to undo the bottom bolt and slide that on, and then it worked perfectly. Hopefully you can see that it's pretty tight in here. This is a 45C tire. It's pretty tight down around here, especially right there. There's certainly enough clearance here to ride when it's wet, when it's raining. I probably wouldn't say that there's enough clearance here to ride when there's a lot of snow and ice on the ground. But these also wouldn't be the tires that I would ride in that scenario. So I'm not too worried about that, but it is something worth taking note of. And this is a 45. I'm going to put a 42 on there, and we'll see how that works as well. But before I do that, I'm going to try to do the front, and that's probably where the pain's going to come in. So let's start up here. It's already a few problems identified. As I mentioned in the initial Fender dilemma video, the shape of the fork here is an issue even with a rounded or a pretty rounded fender. It's interfacing with the fork and the fender right there, and as grit and salt get in there, it's going to be in a place where it wears, and that's very suboptimal. The other problem here is that because these are inside, it's really tough to get a wrench in there. Now obviously you can use the wrench in the shorter configuration like that, but it's just one of those places where, like, it blows my mind why they put the fender mount inside the fork. The other problem here is that this bolt that they supplied isn't long enough to really get into the fender mount and provide adequate purchase. Fortunately, the kit comes with a longer bolt, so that's what I'm going to have to use. And with the 45C on here, given how tight this is, obviously that's a problem. So that's a no-go with the 45C. Here we have, this is a 48C, but it measures 38 millimeters. Even this studded tire is making contact with the front here. So this is another, it's just confirmation of the problem that I knew was going to exist. Lynskey dropped the ball when it came to the design of the top of this fork. It's just ridiculous. So we're going to have to cut this guy. So cutting it was clearly the trick. And now 45C tire fits on there just fine. You just want to make sure that you have plenty of clearance here between the edge of the fender and the fork, so that you don't have any of that potential for vibration on here to wear away at the fork, because that would be really bad. I actually have a little bit of play here where I could even bring this down a little bit more and still be fine with the tire clearance, but I think that this is probably the sweet spot, like about halfway in between the top and the bottom of there. But otherwise, this 45C tire fits really well in here. You can see there's plenty of space up in there, even if you were to ride in like light snow or something like that. So all in, I am really pleased that I took a second look at this, and thank you for the comments, because I'm not sure that I would have taken that second look if it wasn't suggested that I ought to. So hopefully you found that useful. If you did, go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or comments, let me know, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks.